Good morning, YouTube. I have an interesting update on the CNC Motors situation.
So are you recording all of the nefarious activities?
If you're new to the channel, my name is Dan, this is my garage, and this channel is all about the supercar ownership experience. And unfortunately, today's video is a part of the bad side of these experiences and when things can go terribly wrong. If you didn't see the previous video about Shane's story at CNC Motors, it's heartbreaking. So I suggest you go watch that so that you know what we're talking about. So this is a follow-up. Shane actually sent me a video with a bunch of information and I thought it was extremely relevant, so I'm doing everything I can to get this video out to you as quickly as possible. And I'm also not going to really edit what he said. So I think it's my duty to present this story without a bunch of bias or opinions or editing or whatever, so I'm not going to really interject a whole lot. I think I just want to show you what he's got to say, and then let's talk about afterwards. So what I would suggest is please watch this in full. Don't skip around because there's a lot of interesting information and there's a lot of complexities of the situation. So here we go. Here is Shane's follow-up.
Hey Dan, how's it going? It's Shane with the 2008 yellow Ferrari F430 and the CNC Motorsports Fiasco. Thank you so much for the interview and the use of your platform to let other people know, buyers and sellers, to beware when getting involved in consignment deals or the exotic car exchange in general. It can be a tricky world to navigate, and the consequences can be pretty financially severe if you get caught up in some of the stuff that happens in the world of high finance and supercars. So getting to the update as far as what's going on between CNC and myself as it pertains to my vehicle, Clay started reaching out to me pretty frantically because he knew that I was starting to fish around to some channels. He knew that I was being interviewed. He knew that I was starting my own sort of go-to-war campaign with him because I wasn't going to stop until we brought this thing to closure. So I felt that every time he was calling me, he was probably just trying to get me to turn the heat down a little bit. But when I finally did break down and just like, fine, you got 3 minutes to explain yourself, don't waste my time. And when he got on the phone, it was, I was listening to somebody that sounded like they were a little broken. You know, he was humble, he was exhausted, and he said, I want you to come out here, I want to tell you what happened. And he says, you know, all I can do is just ask you to hear me out. At this point, you know, I was pretty fed up, but I thought, what do I have to lose? You know, I've got a lot of money on the line here. I'm so invested in this thing with my time now. What's another weekend? So I drove out and I sat down and I ended up talking with him for about 3 hours, and even sat down with his wife who sat in on the meeting, and got to hear like what they've been through, what COVID-19 did to their business. And before I start sounding like a sympathizer here, I'll say this. At no point did I agree with how he handled his business. At no point, and to this point, I do not think that he conducted himself in a professional manner. I would not have handled myself like that. I don't think I personally would have allowed the situation to get to what it did. But I do believe what he was telling me was the truth. I think he made some really bad decisions and is ultimately paying the price for it, and that price may be him losing everything. But the one thing that came out of the conversation that I think is a side note to the interview that you'll do with him, because he's agreed to be very transparent in the interview, and I believe he will be, and if he's not, it's not the place to, you know, it's not the place to BS. But the point that he made that I thought was valid was this. He said, Shane, you and a number of people are understandably pissed off. I get that. And I'm doing what I can to fix the situation. And he says, and I know I should have answered back, but this is overwhelming. You know, there's a lot of things going on here with this, between threats and upset customers and you know, the financial situation I'm in. I do not know how to handle this. And I was kind of like, yeah, that's pretty apparent that you don't know what you're doing. And he said, but this is the thing I want to make my point on. I'm going to ask you, Shane, to back off a little bit, because the more you're coming after me, sooner or later this is going to force me to go bankrupt. I could have gone bankrupt during COVID when we initially took the first large hit, but I didn't want to do that, is what he was telling me. He says, I'm not bankrupt to this point, even though it's cost me my house, my building, and every dollar I have, because I've been taking every penny that I can get liquid, every asset that I can liquid, and I'm fixing each one of these situations one by one. If I go bankrupt, nobody gets paid. If the attack online continues to come, it's only going to prevent people from conducting any business with me, and it's going to deter any investors from coming in and helping shore up the business and bring in a management team who can take this company and rebuild it, which is all I want for my employees, and it's all I want for the customers and for my family's name. If CNC Motors isn't going to be mine anymore, I accept that I put myself in this position. But if I have to file for bankruptcy because I cannot get a customer to come through the door and I cannot get an investor to get involved with me, how will I pay everybody back? I will have nothing. I will not have a means to do that. Right now, I'm working towards resolving each and every situation. I'm asking you for your help. Help me, help them get paid. That was about the most sincere thing he had said to me. And I hope that by me believing his intentions and by me sending this video to you, and hopefully by you taking this video and putting it online, Clay will understand that he will be held to accountability, not just by me, not just by the other person involved in my car, not just by the handful of other folks that he needs to straighten transactions out with, but anybody who's a fan of Normal Guy Supercar, anybody who follows CNC on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube, anybody will see that he is just full of crap. So by his being willing to go public with this and make this point that, listen, if you BK me, nobody gets paid, he's got a point. He's got a point. I'm not happy about it because I'm not necessarily wanting to sit here and endorse the guy. But on the other hand, if we cut off his supply of revenue, how would he? So he's got a point. We'll see where this goes tomorrow. I'm going to go out and meet him again. I will report back to you. Do with this video what you will, but I do believe the story will continue to develop. And you, Dan, have the lead on the story, so good luck with this. Feel free to call me. I'll talk to you soon.
A few things to note. Number one, I am scheduled to interview CNC Motors today, in fact, within about 2 hours of now. So I don't know what they're going to say, and I'm going to do my best to present their side of the story as much as they're willing to, as unedited as possible. So just like Shane, I'm going to lend them my platform and let them speak and say what they want to say, and I will let you guys make the decisions about the situation. Full disclosure, I don't really have any skin in this game. I don't have no relationships with CNC Motors. My only relationship with Shane is that he paid me to do a consultation with him over a year ago, back when he was originally buying his Ferrari. Actually, it wasn't even about that. It was actually a business consultation. I have no financial gains to any outcome in this story. I simply believe that is my duty as a member of the supercar community to protect people who are in a potentially vulnerable situation, make sure that people are made whole. If there's anything nefarious going on, I want to expose that as a lesson for future people, and hopefully we can get everyone squared away. My intentions are not to cause CNC to go out of business. I don't want to bankrupt them. I don't wish any ill harm to anyone because, again, I don't think we know everything. So I'd ask that everyone kind of learn as much as they can, reserve judgments until we know all of the story. So we've only heard one side of the story. We should hear the other side of the story out of fairness. We owe it to truth to find out their side of the stories. Hopefully I'll have that video for you very, very soon. So stay tuned for all that. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And again, we're just hoping that these people can come out okay. I just feel terrible for them because I feel like this could have been any of us. And a few things I wanted to point out real quickly, because there's been a lot of people actually victim blaming Shane. I think you don't know the whole story. There's a lot of backstory that I couldn't put in the video because it's too time consuming. Also, about the PPI stuff, yes, you should get a PPI on any supercar purchase, but it needs to be by a third party, an independent party who you pay. But the problem is a lot of the PPIs are really bad. So there's no consistency in the PPI business. It's very complex. So it's not that simple. It's not as easy as just saying, go get a PPI. It's not that easy. The second thing I want to say is that people were suggesting that, press charges or file a lawsuit or anything like that. And that's not that easy either. This is a very complex situation with a lot of strange laws at play. So it's not that easy. Let's be civil. And hopefully we can get a positive resolution somehow. So as soon as I have more updates on this, I will publish them and get them out to you guys as quickly as I can. So we're gonna have lots more car stuff coming your way. So you're gonna wanna stay tuned. It's gonna be sweet.